clock tick as we get ready for this all-Texas matchup. Game number 4 of the Western Conference semifinal series. A look at the starting lineup. San Antonio going small. Mike because of that sprained right ankle. He says it's still sore, but he is starting. Here's Tony Parker getting inside. So the Spurs with the first bucket of the game. Marv Albert with Steve Kerr and Cheryl Miller. The Mavericks with a 2-1 lead on San Antonio coming off the victory here on Saturday night. Josh Howard for Devin Harris with a wide open shot.
Now, Marv, right away you see San Antonio going small with this starting lineup, trying to match up with this Dallas quickness. And part of the game plan tonight, make Devin Harris beat you from the outside. Bad sign for the Spurs. He knocks the first one down.
Devin Harris has been sensational. He's been in the starting lineup the last 2 games. Barry shot rejected by Chop. Bowen, Nowitzki with the rebound. And broken up by Finley.
Dallas ball.
So it will be Dallas in possession.
And this has been a fascinating series to this point, Marv, because of all the different matchups. Much like the Phoenix Clippers series, so many different possible matchups, and Dallas really has dictated the pace and the terms of this engagement due to their speed and their quickness. San Antonio just trying to figure out a way to match up.
Howard tried to go high off glass, handled by Duncan. A one-time Maverick, Michael Finley, hearing some boos from this crowd. Brent Barry once again in the starting lineup. Tony Parker called for a traveling violation. The officials, Dick Bavetta, Derek Stafford, Jimmy Clark, a veteran officiating crew. The San Antonio Spurs were certainly unhappy with the Dallas Mavericks going to the line 50 times in Game 3. They hit 39 of 50. Dirk Nowitzki spending much time at the line. He was 21 of 24. Harris once again to the bucket. Trying to give it back. Jump on the recovery. Shot clock to 2. Nowitzki for 3. Rebounded by Duncan.
I don't know if I've ever seen a Spurs team scramble defensively so much. San Antonio doubling on every possession.
Michael Finley. San Antonio with a 4-2 lead. It was Dirk Nowitzki, who happens to be a good friend of his former teammate Michael Finley, who suggested in the media last week, it's about time you start to boo Michael Finley. So he's been hearing the boos the past couple of games.
You can't boo Michael Finley, can you? I guess you just boo whoever's on the other team, even if you like him.
He was a star here in Dallas for 8.5 years, made the All-Star team on 2 occasions. Nice give and go, and Jump comes up short, able to rebound. Howard back to Jump. Pass intended for Nowitzki. Barry with the save.
Well, San Antonio looks pumped here tonight. They know they have to play with a lot of emotion and intensity just to match this Dallas team's athleticism, Marv.
And once again, the boos rain down on Finley, and he is fouled. He was tripped up. Well, for the Spurs, Steve, the season is on the line. Foul on Josh Howard, and San Antonio has not lost 3 in a row all season long. A win tonight by Dallas would make it 3 straight after the Spurs won the opener of the series.
And they have not started this lineup all year long. It shows you how desperate they are. But Greg Popovich told us before the game, he said, this is all about defense. We've built this team on slowing people down, keeping them out of the lane. Dallas just getting way too many easy points in this series.
Parker. Well, Tony Parker with a couple of early buckets the other night in Game 3, just 6 of 16 from the field. This after a magnificent regular season, averaging 19 points, 6 assists.
He's one of the keys to this game. You see San Antonio going to him early and often, trying to attack Devin Harris. Josh Howard called for the travel. But there's no question, or Parker is a huge key in this game and in any game that San Antonio plays. His penetration and his speed causes so much trouble for the defense, but to this point, he has been unable to get his game on track, shooting just 40% in the series, scoring 16 a game. Really, he's been outplayed by Devin Harris.
Tony Parker has been bothered by bruised thighs, but he says he's all right. He insists he's okay. Duncan had it knocked aside. Good hustle by Jump, and it will be a jump ball.
Now you see Dallas coming with the late double team. They don't want to double Duncan on the first pass. So that's a staple of Avery Johnson's teams, just like the staple of Greg Popovich's team. So much in common with these respective defenses due to the connection between Johnson and Popovich. But they want to double Duncan late in the clock. They don't want to allow him time to pick out shooters out of that double team.
And it was knocked out of bounds. Last touched by San Antonio. Now they say last touch by Dallas, and Bowen will put it in play. How about earlier tonight here on TNT? Just moments ago, Cleveland able to wrap it up. 2-point victory over Detroit. So much for the guarantee by Rasheed Wallace. So that series is tied at 2. LeBron at 22 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds. Nowitzki with a rainbow. Dirk Nowitzki had a most unusual game the other night. 27 points on only 9 shots, spending much time at the foul line.
Yeah, that's the most number of points ever by an NBA player with just 3 field goals. And he lived at the line. And look what San Antonio has done now. They've sent 3 people at Nowitzki. Doesn't matter, just shoots right over the top.
Offensive foul on Brent Barry, so Dallas gets it back. Spurs with a 6-4 lead. We are just underway here in Dallas. Howard, the long rebound is handled by Barry.
Rebounds so key for San Antonio with this small lineup in particular. They've been outboarded by Dallas by an average of 5 per game in this series.
Duncan way off. He's trying to go glass, and it's handled by Nowitzki.
Frenetic pace here early on, where you can understand, you can feel the importance of this game for both teams.
Nowitzki with the fadeaway. He's hit 2 of his first 3. And the game is tied at 6.
I think Popovich is willing to live with those shots, though, Marv. He just can't allow Nowitzki to get to the free throw line.
Beautiful move by Parker, and draws the foul. So Tony Parker putting the move on. He claims he was in the act, and the officials talking it over.
And there's Nowitzki. You see the shot over the double team. And as I said, Marv, I think Greg Popovich is willing to deal with the fadeaway 20-footers because the free throw attempts were really what made the difference in the game the other night.
Foul on Job. Parker is going to the line. He was fouled in the act of shooting. And there are 2 schools of thought here. Do you stay with what brought you to this point? San Antonio had the best season in the history of the franchise as they win 63 games, 63 up, 19 down, and they were the big guys up front. And now here in the playoffs, they are matching up against Dallas.
Well, that's the question we asked Greg Popovich, and he said the problem is they just can't find anybody for Rasho Nesterovic or Nazi Mohammed to guard, because if you bring them in, they have to cover the big guy, Diop or Dampier. That puts Tim Duncan on Nowitzki, and San Antonio can't afford to get Duncan in foul trouble.
Howard shooting for 3. And the ball back to the Spurs. But since Avery Johnson took over, the Mavericks have certainly been more selective in terms of shooting from downtown.
Just 25 three-point attempts through 3 games in this series, Marv. You see the foul on Dallas, but if there's one stat that tells you the influence Avery Johnson has had on this Dallas club, here it is. 25 three-point attempts through 3 games. Remember, it was just 3 years ago, the Dallas Mavericks set an all-time NBA record for three-point attempts in a game. They took 42 against Sacramento in 1 game. So Avery has come in here. He said, look, we're going to win a championship by doing it the traditional way, by playing defense, by stopping teams. We're going to use our athleticism to do that.
Has checked in for the first time. Manu Ginobili has come on for San Antonio. Spurs up 8-6. Duncan is wide open. Comes back to Parker, and they get the new 24. Parker probing and chased by Dampier. Shoots the jumper and hits. And Greg Popovich telling us earlier, he told Tony, take 20, 25 jumpers. I don't care, but you got to shoot from the outside.
Yeah, his aggressiveness is key. That's a big jumper for Parker. Nowitzki knocks down another one. But when Parker makes a couple of outside shots early, Marv, it gives him the confidence that he needs to then attack the rim and get his game going. And I think that's a big factor here early on. Can Parker make a couple more and loosen up that Dallas defense?
Tony is 3 of 4. He has 8 points. Beautiful move again. Put the speed on, got the step. Devin Harris left in his tracks, and there was no help. So Parker once again, and the Spurs lead at 12-8.
Now Avery Johnson's going to call a timeout because this is what he doesn't want. Tony Parker attacking the rim. This is why he shot almost 55% this year. A terrific finisher at the rim.
Dirk Nowitzki, 27 points, 15 rebounds. Suffered that injury with about a minute left in the game. Came up with a huge rebound after it, although he limped through the final minute. Avery Johnson says this is a new and improved Dirk Nowitzki. Can still go out and have a great game without taking any threes, which was certainly the case Saturday night. Parker came up with a steal, 2-on-1. Here's Finley going all the way. Rebounded by Ginobili. Finley anticipating contact.
Well, Marvin, this is a nice start here for San Antonio. They've accomplished everything that they wanted out of the gates. They have the pace slowed down. Dallas has not been to the free throw line. Parker is tearing up Devin Harris, and at the other end, Harris has not been able to get on track.
Tony Parker again taking to the rim, and he's fouled by Eric Dampier. So Parker to the line, and Dallas with their 4th team foul. And very concerned, Gabriel Solis, Tony Parker's close friend. Eva Longoria, who has been involved in some intense issues in her other life. Well, that was last night on Desperate Housewives.
Yeah. Sorry, I missed it, Marv. I did actually watching the NBA playoffs. But
I switched back and forth.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, her best man is off to a quick start here. 12 points for Parker. Exactly what Greg Popovich wanted.
Just under 5 remaining in this first quarter. Stackhouse coming up short and kept alive by Dampier. Nowitzki got the step and then try to set it up for Dampier. There's Bowen to the left hand, and that's a goaltend. The basket counts.
Marvin, in the 4th quarter of Game 3, even though San Antonio lost, they scored on 10 consecutive possessions at one point, and this is how they did it. They penetrated, they attacked the Dallas defense, played off of Tim Duncan when the double team came. They had the small lineup out on the floor. That's the reason Greg Popovich has decided to start with this small lineup. They feel like they've figured something out against this Maverick defense.
Howard is fouled. Ginobili reaching in, looking for the steal. And Amato picks up his first. Jason Terry checks back in, replacing Devin Harris. Harris hit his first shot, and that's been it, but it's been all Tony Parker. 4 or 5 from the field, 4 for 4 from the line for 12 points, going up very effectively here tonight at the start against Harris. Here is Stackhouse for 3. Jerry Stackhouse in Game 3 on Saturday. 28 minutes, 10 points, but in the final seconds on the line, Steve, for those 2 shots, missed the first free throw, then looking to miss the second on purpose, failed to hit the rim. Parker again, and that gave San Antonio the ball. He said he's never practiced missing, so that's why he was way off.
Which is a good thing, but that is the truth. To try to miss a shot to get a rebound is a difficult thing to do, whether you want the rebound or whether you're trying to miss it just to run the clock out. Terry with the jumper. But that was almost a grave error by Stackhouse because that gave San Antonio the chance to take the ball out of bounds on the side, and Ori ended up with a desperation shot that missed, but could have ended in disaster for Stackhouse.
And he got a call from his mom as Duncan gets inside. Nice pass. So Tim Duncan with his first field goal. His mom, Minnie Stackhouse, called Jerry late Saturday night. It was not a call of congratulations. He said normally when you do something bad at the end of the game, your mama is always the one that'll be like, oh, it's okay. But she's asking, what were you thinking about? So Jerry said, I knew I messed up a bit.
And I think he said it was after midnight, and he said, Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Thanks for the call. Meanwhile, Duncan picks up the foul on the penetration from Nowitzki. And one thing you see early here, Michael Finley has started out on Nowitzki. Now, Greg Popovich would ultimately like Bruce Bowen to be on Nowitzki for the most part in this game, but wants to buy some early minutes from Finley, who will go to the bench here, keep Bowen out of foul trouble, and also that keeps Bowen on Josh Howard. And what Greg Popovich felt was that the early play of Harris and Howard the last couple of games was critical. They wanted to slow him down with Bowen.
Timeout has been called. Spurs up by 6, 3:04 to go in this first quarter. Tim Duncan operating down low and able to get inside.
Things are going your way. They're going your way. The deflection that leads to the bank shot. Amazing that one went down. But Parker with 14 of the Spurs 20 points here, 5 of 6 shooting, and it's been a tough series to this point for the All-Star Parker, but this is the quick start San Antonio needed from him. You see the numbers from the series, but he has really got it going early here.
And 40% games 1 and 3. That's giving him the fraction benefit of the doubt.
39 point something.
Looks worse.
They rounded up.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that he wasn't missing a lot from the perimeter in those games. He was missing inside. I think he lost a little confidence. We've talked so much about what a great finisher he is in the lane. He was missing a lot of those floaters and leaners, and good to see him making those here early on if you're Greg Popovich.
And Tony, a guy was shooting 55% from the field, as you saw during the regular season. Here is Parker going at Terry and scores again. Wow. 6 of 7, 16 points for Parker, and the Spurs now lead at 22-15. Let's go over to Cheryl.
And yesterday, guys, Tony Parker said he finally is 100% physically. Since game 1, he's been bothered by a left quad contusion, bruised right thigh, and strained right hip. He's wearing a compression tights that are padded to protect those areas. And so far in this first quarter, he's been absolutely explosive.
See, he was honest with Cheryl. He's been telling everyone else, I'm okay. But obviously, he was bothered by the thigh injuries. Here's Parker again. Oh, beautiful fake. Too much of a fake. He's called for steps.
Yeah, gets called for the travel, but Greg Popovich doesn't care. He's so happy to see Parker in this aggressive mode. This is the attack mode that he needs from this team, especially right now with Tim Duncan on the bench.
San Antonio up by 7. Stackhouse. Played well by Ori. Angled to the right. Robert Ori on the floor for the first time. Came in just a moment ago. Ori starting the previous 2 games. Got in early foul trouble on Saturday night in Game 3. Pass intended for Parker. Broken up by Terry.
Marv, I'm watching this first quarter. I'm reminded of something Doug Collins has said a few times in the playoffs. The NBA is about the first quarter. It's a first quarter game, and that's when teams establish tempo. We saw it in New Jersey against Miami in those first 2 games. Ginobili with the little floater. We saw it in Chicago against Miami. All the games out west, same thing. You get off to that quick start, you establish your tempo, and if you can keep it going, you really got the advantage. And San Antonio absolutely has things going the way they want.
Ginobili from the blind side, looking for the steal, but contact was made, and a foul. That's the second on Manu Ginobili, who responded to losing his starting job. He had struggled the first 2 games. He came off the bench the other night and played well. 24 points, including big buckets down the stretch.
Well, the move did 2 things for San Antonio. One, it got Ginobili in a position where he was the focal point of the offense because either Parker or Duncan was on the bench when he came in. Number 2, it got Brent Berry involved in the series. The first 2 games, Berry had a tough time guarding Jerry Stackhouse, and by starting, Berry was able to cover Jason Terry. You see the rebound there. And another travel for Tony Parker.
Marquise Daniels, who just came on, reached in to Tony Parker. That caused the traveling violation. Both clubs shuffling quite a bit here in the first quarter. Michael Finley is back. Manu Ginobili, who just picked up a second foul, sits down. Coming up on a minute remaining in this first quarter. San Antonio's played well. They lead at 24-15. Bowen now on Nowitzki. Terry cut off. Howard with the crossover. Howard, the tip missed by Nowitzki. Kept alive by Howard. Good hustle by Josh Howard.
Wow, what a sequence for Howard. He is so versatile kind of showed you everything there. The attack off the dribble, the offensive rebound, the long arms to track that ball down, and then the finish using that athleticism.
Parker goes to the pull-up. Howard pulled it back. Mavericks were looking to run. 8-second differential between the game clock and the shot clock. And a foul is called on Finley, getting involved with Nowitzki. So San Antonio over the limit. Nowitzki to the line. He's 2 for 2 at the line, looking for points 9 and 10. Reminder, national television coverage of the NBA Conference semifinals continues this week. Thursday on ESPN, Game 6 between the Heat and the Nets, if that game is necessary, followed by Game 6 of the Suns and the Clippers. And Sunday on ABC, it'll be either Game 7 of an Eastern semifinal series or Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals.
How about Cleveland, Marv? After those first 2 games in Detroit, who could have guessed that they would come back without Larry Hughes and tie that series? What an effort from LeBron James and his squad.
Cavaliers earlier this evening here on TNT defeating the Pistons 74-72. So Detroit wins the first 2 at the Palace. And then the Cavaliers come right back at the Q and take 2 to tie the series at 2 apiece.
Greg Popovich going back to Tim Duncan. He's got 1 possession left here, and he'd love to finish the quarter with a score. And so Avery Johnson makes the counter move, brings back Sagana Diop for defense.
Oh, look out. Terry claiming that he was fouled. The final seconds of the first. Duncan, played by Diop with some help. Ori gets it up. And he draws the foul with 7/10 of a second remaining in the quarter. That's 3 on Diop.
Now this is exactly what San Antonio wants to do off that double team, Marv. The first pass out, that guy has to react and attack the rim. Ori drawing the contact. So we will most likely see plenty of Eric Dampier here coming up in the second quarter. But against Dallas, their defense is so quick that if you rotate the ball out of the double team, they recover so quickly, much like Phoenix does with Sean Marion. The long, athletic guys will fly out to the shooter. So rather than swing the ball, San Antonio just going to attack off that first pass.
Rasho Nesterovic with a rare appearance in this series, replacing Tim Duncan. Talking about Dallas defensively, they finished in the number 7 spot this season. Last year, middle of the pack at 14. So their whole team has changed. Not taking as many three-point shots. Defense improved. There's Daniels going high off glass to end this first quarter.
They have his number retired and hanging in the rafters of the AT&T Center. But Avery, he was one of those guys who I always knew would be a head coach. Scott Skiles, same way. I mean, you watch suggested game plans, whether they were wanted or not, but he's done an amazing job. The one thing I didn't expect, Marv, was for him to become a head coach less than a year after retirement. Remember, he took over Dallas late last season.
Most unusual, even though he took over a very good ball club. Second quarter gets underway as Howard comes up short, but most unusual without any head coaching experience. Don Nelson did insert him from time to time, but as Van Exel fires one up, rebounded by Howard. But so unusual to see this kind of success without having lots of experience. Terry for 3. Nick Van Exel on the floor for the first time, former Maverick. So Van Exel working the point, coming off to Tony Parker. Duncan, Bowen, Ori, Finley, and Van Exel being utilized here by Greg Popovich. Last touch by Dallas, so the Spurs will put it in play with 11 on the shot clock. Now Brent Barry will come on for Bruce Bowen.
And with Dirk Nowitzki out of the lineup right now, Bowen will get a rest, and you better believe that as soon as Dirk is back, so too will Bruce Bowen.
Spurs shot 10 of 17, 59% from the field in the first quarter. Duncan's shot was blocked, and a 24-second violation.
Solid defense by Dallas, and remember, that's what Avery Johnson has preached since he's been here. Spurs shot about 59% in that first quarter, though. But Dallas now starting to tighten things up at the defensive end.
Marquise Daniels handling, he and Jason Terry in the backcourt. Eric Dampier, Jerry Stackhouse up front with Josh Howard. And a foul is called on Van Exel. Foul away from the ball, so Mavericks will put in play. Dallas went 60-22 during the regular season, second best record in the West, right behind San Antonio. They finished 3 games behind the Spurs. Mavericks equaling their best record in franchise history. Stackhouse got inside. The tip came up short. And back comes Barry. Met by Daniels. Duncan played by Dampier. And as Finley made his move, 3-second violation is called.
Well, there's that rotation that I talked about with Dallas. They're so quick on the perimeter. Look at this lineup. Jerry Stackhouse, Daniels, Howard, and Jason Terry. What did Avery Johnson call those guys? His defensive backs. He said they're like cornerbacks in the NFL. They're so quick laterally that you pass out of a double team and swing the ball. Seems like they're right on top of you with the rotation.
Stackhouse to the fadeaway, and he is fouled. Stackhouse run into by Van Exel. Most unusual matchup between two 60 victory teams. Only the third time that this has happened, where 60-win teams have met in the conference semifinals.
And it's due to the quirk in the playoff seeding format, and that one that will be ironed out for sure by the NBA this summer. This is, I think, a catastrophe, really, that these two clubs have to meet this early. But that's the way it goes. And how about for San Antonio? Not only do you face Dallas now, but in the first round you have to go against a Sacramento team that was one of the hottest clubs in the NBA by the end of the season. So they get the best record in the West, the first seed, and 2 terribly difficult draws in the first 2 rounds.
Last time the Spurs played the Mavs in the playoffs 3 years ago in the Western Conference Finals, a memorable series off the steal. Well, apparently Dick Pavetta says a kickball. Dirk Nowitzki sprained his left knee in Game 3 in that series 3 years back. Missed the final 3 games. San Antonio winning it in 6 thanks to your exploits.
Thank you,
and they went on to win the NBA championship. And Avery Johnson pointed out, he said, this is a different team, different year. We've come a long way in the area of mental toughness.
And defensive toughness. I mean, an entirely different approach to the way the game should be played. Remember that club led by Steve Nash, Van Exel, Finley, a shooting ball club. Ooh, Duncan with the quick move around Dampier. Now, you're right, this is an attacking, athletic, defensive-minded club.
Things picking up now as Howard hits at the other end. Spurs now lead 28-23. We're early in the second. Marv Albert with Steve Kerr and Cheryl Miller. In Dallas, Texas, Duncan again, and then gives it up. Barry for 3. Rebounded by Dampier. Terry on the move. Terry with the jumper. Finley rebound. See Barry checking with Greg Popovich over at the bench. Popovich wanted a 20, and now the 20-second timeout is granted.
I think Pop is a little concerned about the tempo. Things have really picked up here the last couple of minutes, Marv. You can see Dallas making a concerted effort to push the ball, and Popovich saying, let's slow things down here.
And now they have made the transition to a full timeout, providing us an opportunity to take a close-up and get a timeout.
Yeah, I thought it was just because he didn't like the tempo of the game, but take a look right here. Gets an elbow, looks like from Marquise Daniels, poked in the eye, and that's why Popovich calls the timeout. But at the same time, it gives him the opportunity to talk to his club and remind them that this pace is exactly what they want. Remember, San Antonio was 3-12 this year, Marv, when they gave up 100 points or more, and 3 of those losses here in the playoffs. Ginobili with the big 3. But Greg Popovich told us, he said, this is all about defense for us. We've got to slow things down and get Dallas down in the 90s if we're going to win this game. They're obviously on pace to do that.
Yes, most of the way, it has been the pace that San Antonio would like. Nowitzki taking it to the rim, and he looks like he's hurting.
Yeah.
See the expression.
Yeah, he's limping. You can definitely see it. But, you know, he's a guy who's dealt with pain an awful lot. We've seen him sprain ankles, I think, more than any player that I can remember in recent years. So it's something he's dealt with in the past.
Barry open for three. Brent Barry from downtown. That's his first field goal of the game. And the Spurs now lead 34-25. Oh, Terry around Ginobili. The speedy Jason Terry got the step. And there was no help.
That's one of the problems with this small lineup, Marvin. San Antonio for years played two big men. First it was David Robinson, then Nazr Mohammed, Rasho Nesterovic. But when you only have one big, you see Duncan there, he's got to stay out of foul trouble. So he has to avoid contact there. But you know, without that second 7-footer in the lane, Dallas can attack.
Duncan. Ginobili with the steal. Ginobili, Van Exel, beautifully done.
Boy, Ginobili has such quick hands, Marvin. When he's at his best, that's what he's doing. We saw him knock down the three. That's not really his game. He's a guy who loves to get loose balls, poke balls away, and then get out in transition, create plays.
Howard. We are suddenly seeing a layup drill for the Mavericks.
Yeah, I heard last night during the Clipper telecast, Doug and Kevin talking about it looked like a 6'5" and under league game. And you look around Duncan and Dampier, everybody in that range height-wise and a lot of speed.
That's a traveling violation. Ginobili was trying to get caught. Terry grabs the ball out of Ginobili's hands. And it is a delay of game on Manu Ginobili. A second delay of game would mean a technical foul, but Manu was trying to draw contact, and as a result, it's called for the travel.
That's the fourth travel we've seen from San Antonio. Parker with 3 early ones, and now Bowen back in the game to cover Nowitzki.
7-point San Antonio lead, 5 minutes gone by. Second quarter, Howard tipped this by Dampier, and the foul on Dampier coming over the back of Duncan. So that's the second on Dampier.
Well, Marv, it's apparent that San Antonio is switching pretty much every screen and roll with Dirk Nowitzki today. And Pop told us before the game he's not so concerned with Nowitzki getting 40 points. If he has Van Exel on him, if he has a smaller guy on him, I think we've got a clock situation here. Dick Pavetta is going to straighten it out. But Pop was much more concerned about everybody else with Dallas beating him. He didn't want Howard and Stackhouse and Devin Harris scoring buckets. He said, I'm going to switch. I'm going to play Nowitzki, and if he gets his 40, that's all right.
They have readjusted the clock. An excellent Barry at the guards. Ginobili's up front with Duncan and Bowen. Here's Ginobili for Duncan. Beautifully done. Manu Ginobili with the assist. Tim Duncan with his third field goal. He has 6 points.
This Spurs team is totally different from what it was 4 or 5 years ago. Back then they were a throw it inside team, stand around on the perimeter, make threes. Now they're an attacking ball club, and when Parker and Ginobili are playing like they are tonight, they are awfully tough to beat.
Oh, what a move by Stackhouse. Went to the spin and able to slam it home. 38-31. Spurs with the lead. San Antonio has shot very well at 58%. Dallas struggling. 40% shooting for the Mavs. Duncan played well by Dampier. Terry played on the switch by Bowen. So Barry defending on Stackhouse. And Dick Pavetta indicating a foul on Van Exel. Got caught on Nowitzki. That's 3 on Van Exel. A timeout is called with just under 6 to play in this first half. 7-point San Antonio lead.
to cover San Antonio, and that's why Tim Duncan has such an effect on the game in every way.
Excellent telestrator work. I know the czar, Mike Fratello, will be working tomorrow night's net at Miami game with Matt Devlin and Doc Rivers, taking notes as he watches you handle the telestrator the way it should be handled.
I'm probably getting a call on my phone right now as he probably critiques my effort.
Nowitzki gets it down low for Duncan. San Antonio's lead is 5. And now pressure from the Mavericks, so Bowen is back to help. And now Dallas drops back as Ginobili handles. Game 4 of this Western Conference semi-final series. Tony Parker is back away from the ball. A foul is called as Josh Howard got involved. That's 3 on Howard. Howard hit the deck, but he's called for the foul.
Stackhouse return.
And now here's Stackhouse coming on for Howard. Winner of this series advances to the Western Conference Final, facing the winner between the Suns and the Clippers. Parker went right at Harris, and he'll head back to the line. Foul is called on Devin Harris.
Well, Parker just got about a 6-minute rest on that Spurs bench. Well, remember how hot he was in the first quarter. So, to give Duncan a little break here from the offense, look for Greg Popovich to go right back at Devin Harris with Tony Parker in the penetration.
That is point number 17 for Parker. You can log on to NBA.com or AOL.com/NBA and click on TNT Overtime for replays of Inside the NBA, playoff analysis, and TNT Courtside. Tony Parker, the high man with 18. Spurs lead by 7. Terry played by Parker. Harris now guarded by Ginobili. And Pierre going at Duncan. And a strong move by Eric Dampier for his second field goal.
I think he caught Duncan off guard. The Spurs are so used to having to deal with Dirk Nowitzki in the half court that Dampier was able to get great position down on the block.
Duncan goes right back. And the foul.
Late call there from Jimmy Clark. The fans are furious. But Duncan went right at Dampier along the baseline and drew some contact.
There's Duncan getting the step and then the late whistle. So that'll put Duncan at the line. And Steve, all through the regular season, Tim Duncan played through a sore right foot. He has plantar fasciitis in that right foot, but there is the feeling around the Spurs that he is feeling much better.
Well, I think a couple things have happened. Number one, he's excited. I mean, this is the playoffs, and we've got a technical foul here. Is that a delay of game? Remember, we already had one earlier.
Well, apparently it is a conventional technical foul. As Finley is arguing. So Nowitzki will shoot the tee.
Well, obviously a lot of emotion. Such a critical game. And players from both teams extremely intense here. And take a look at Finley. Tangled up here. And, it doesn't take much these days in the NBA to get a technical. I mean, I was watching NBA Classics last week, the Detroit Lakers series back in '88. Guys were knocking each other down every play, sending people to the hospital practically. No flagrant fouls back then, no technicals. It was a different game. They definitely restore order here early.
Nice move by Stackhouse over Parker. Well, to that error, if a guy took it to the rim and was knocked down, I don't mean viciously, it would be a foul.
Yeah.
You do that now, a knockdown usually will be a flagrant foul.
Yeah.
You don't play the ball.
And I mean, it's a rule change, and I agree with it, because there were times back then where things would get completely out of hand, and then you'd have fights. But now players know exactly what they're getting into.
Shot clock at 1. Bowen came up short, and it's a 24-second violation.
Excellent defense from Dallas. They've done a much better job here in the second quarter, Marv, of recovering to shooters. We saw the Barry three earlier, but that was one of the few times when Dallas didn't recover to a perimeter shooter, and Bowen, with all that pressure from Harris, can't get the open look in the corner.
Harris and Terry in the backcourt. Nowitzki with Stackhouse and Dampier on the front line. Terry tried to go to the rim and drew the foul on Aurora, blocking foul. San Antonio now over the foul limit.
Well, here's the arc, the dreaded arc. Ori there in plenty of time, but his foot right there. Excellent call from Dick Pavetta. And that line makes things a lot easier on the officials, Marv. All they have to look at is whether that foot is on the line. But I still maintain that the league ought to do away with that arc, because it seems that so often a guy has perfect position and somebody blows right into him and it's a foul anyway.
We'll talk to that man. Aren't you on the rules committee? NBA Commissioner David Stern continues to pick up those frequent flyer miles, making the rounds in LA last night for the Clippers and the Suns. A D-League appearance, I'm told, in Fort Worth earlier today, and tonight it's the Spurs and the Mavericks. They're on their feet here in Dallas. 3 points, San Antonio lead. Ginobili to the crossover. Ginobili try to go glass. Rebound slapped by Nowitzki. Terry in the open floor. Harris back to Terry for three. Yes. The game is tied at 43. San Antonio takes a timeout. 8-0 run by the Mavericks. At one point, San Antonio led by as many as 9.
Well, Mark, Tim Duncan went to the bench about a minute ago. He's got one foul. I think Greg Popovich was hoping to finish out this half with Duncan on the bench and allow Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili to take over the offense, but San Antonio has not been able to get anything going, and Dallas taking advantage, running out in transition off the Ginobili miss, and that's exactly what the Mavericks have to do against this Spurs defense. They get caught in the half-court game, they're going to struggle. And when they push it in transition, that's what they've done to get 2 victories in this series already.
And tonight the Spurs came out on fire in the first quarter, in contrast to what took place in Game 3 on Saturday. Slow start by the Mavericks, but they've come on. They've hit 8 of their last 10 shots.
And Duncan quickly comes back in the ballgame for the Spurs.
Coming up on 3 minutes to play in the first half. That's a chant the Mavericks did not hear in recent years. Chant of defense. Duncan got the hop. 11 points for Tim Duncan. San Antonio up by 2.
Well, they heard the chant, but it was more of a plea than a chant.
That's an offensive foul on Nowitzki. For Dirk, his first.
And that's Bruce Bowen at his best, and that's why Greg Popovich wants his all-defensive team player on the Mavericks' best player. Questionable call there, but Bowen with position. Well, just before the break, we saw Bruce Bowen draw the charge from Dirk Nowitzki, and Bowen has the ability to guard just about anybody on the floor. Spurs put him on all the top scorers in the league. There's Allen Iverson, second in the NBA in points per game. How about Kobe Bryant? He and Bowen have gone at it individually for years in this Western Conference. But Bowen is so versatile. He can slide over and cover a point guard like Gilbert Arenas, the 4th leading scorer in the NBA. So quick with his feet and his hands, has the ability to harass defenders. You can even put him on a 7-footer like Nowitzki. And you see, he didn't quite have position, but Nowitzki using that off arm, I think that's why you get the call. 6 straight seasons, all defensive team for Bowen. The problem in this series, Marv, you can't put him on everybody. And in the first few games, Greg Popovich has had to decide, where do I put him? Because if you guard Nowitzki, then you've got to deal with Howard and Harris and Stackhouse. So a lot of leaks to fill for this San Antonio defense.
And that's why tonight he opened up with Michael Finley on Dirk Nowitzki, then came with Bruce Bowen. And Bowen is called for a traveling violation. A host of travel calls, and we will travel to our studios in Atlanta. How's that for a snappy?
Nice
Thank you
segue.
so much. Here's Ernie.
Look at that game earlier tonight, which is now 2-2, the series between the Pistons and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And no Cavalier attitude here. Back to you.
Oh, that's strong.
Not quite the segue that you
No.
made, Marv, but a nice transition nonetheless.
Nowitzki took a shot from Bowen, so that puts Nowitzki at the free throw line. First foul on Bowen. Nowitzki is 5 for 5 at the line. The other night, 21 for 24, a Maverick playoff record for most free throws attempted and made. There you see Bruce just tapping the dirt back of the head.
A lot of opponents feel that Bowen should be called a little more often for moves like that. Very active with his hands, but for the Spurs, Marv, a pretty good sign. Remember, Dallas averaging 40 free throws a game in this series, just 11 to this point, although they've made all 11.
The game is tied at 45. Pushing foul, says Dick Bavette. It's on Jason Terry. For Terry, his first. And the Mavs are over the foul limit. Manu Ginobili will shoot two. San Antonio has never won a series when they have trailed 2-1. But we're talking 2 other occasions.
Yeah.
But it has been brought up in the media in San Antonio. 2002, they lost to the Lakers in 5 in the Western semis. 1998, lost to Utah in 5 in the semifinals.
I don't know that it means much, particularly because this is now a team that's won 3 championships in the last 7 years. I mean, you know they are mentally tough. You know they've been able to overcome a lot of challenges over the years. Harris knocks down the jumper. But this Spurs team, they know what it takes to win a championship, and being down 2-1 is an obstacle that they can overcome.
Game is tied at 47. Ginobili launches a 3. So that's 10 points for Ginobili. And San Antonio 3 of 5 from beyond that 3-point line.
That's a welcome sign. They have really struggled from beyond the arc in this series. They've only made 10 through 3 games.
Nowitzki. He was being guarded by Parker on a switch. No trouble releasing that shot. 17 points here in the first half for Dirk Nowitzki.
Once again, that switch defensively for San Antonio leaves the smaller Parker on Nowitzki, just shoots right over the top of him.
Parker. Oh, beautiful recovery by Ginobili, somehow getting inside.
This is when he's at his best. We talked about it earlier. When he knocks down the jumper from the perimeter, Marv, it seems to give him that extra boost of confidence that he needs, because his game is really about penetration and speed.
Harris. Devin Harris, 3 of 3 from the field. This is only his 3rd career playoff start. Sensational game Saturday night. 7 of 14, 24 points, 10 of 11 at the line, and a foul is called on the Mavs. It's on Harris, and that is his second. Harris had that gorgeous behind-the-back dribble leading to a layup on Saturday night. Did most of the scoring early. That was a career high in Game 3. Game 1, a minor role.
And he has out-Tony Parkered Tony
Yes.
Parker in the last couple of games. His tremendous speed has given San Antonio fits. And that jumper that we just saw right here, I think very big. He's now 3 for 3. Remember, very slow start. The second-year man from Wisconsin. And the slow start, but now he's made a couple of jumpers, so he's getting his confidence back. He's going to be a big factor in the second half.
Halftime report, Ernie, Charles, and Kenny. And they'll take a look back at the first of our TNT doubleheader between the Pistons and the Cavaliers. Cleveland winning their second straight against Detroit. And they've tied that series at 2. And a look back at what took place in this first half. We're down to a half minute remaining. Spurs up now 53-51. San Antonio is led by as many as 9. Harris working beautifully with Stackhouse. The lob on target, and the game is tied.
Beautifully designed play from Avery Johnson, knowing that the Spurs are so concerned with Harris's penetration. The help came from the corner. Stackhouse with the lob.
Parker running the clock down with final seconds. Parker. Shot blocked by Harris. Here comes Terry. And he fires. And Mavs 13 of 20 from the floor in the second quarter after opening up 7 of 19. Tied at 53. Dallas in possession. Nowitzki to the fadeaway. That's impossible to stop.
I was about to say the same thing. You can't do anything. I mean, Bowen played him perfectly. He's 7 feet. He jumps well, and he shoots from behind his head. So nothing else Bowen could do.
And Bowen does give away about 5 inches on Nowitzki. Mavericks on the run. Here's Howard. Swept by Finley. Greg Popovich going with the lineup that started the game. The one change, Michael Finley instead of Robert Horry. So the Spurs going small. Tim Duncan is the big man along with Bowen and Barry, Parker, and Finley. And Tim Duncan with 2 more points. He now has 13 along with 5 rebounds.
What a beautiful feed from Brent Barry, just feathering that ball right over the top of the defense.
Job sends the pick. Here's Howard. Parker with Finley on the wing. Parker kicks it out. Finley wide open. Yes.
Well, San Antonio doesn't want to run too much, but they want to take advantage of the opportunities they have, Marvin. Even though that was sort of a 2-on-3, you get a wide open look for Michael Finley. You take it.
Harris and Terry in the backcourt. Here's Howard up front with Nowitzki and Jump. Crowd wanted a foul. Terry just did beat the shot clock. Avery Johnson cannot be happy with the spacing on that last sequence. Howard actually intercepted a pass that was meant for Nowitzki.
Well, the shot clock running down, Dallas was a little scattered offensively.
Foul on Jump. That is number 4 on Sagana Jump. Let's check in with Cheryl Miller.
Thanks, Marvel. Coach Popovich said, I thought both teams played well in that first half. Obviously, they shot the ball great in the second quarter, and we had way too many turnovers. Assistant coach Dale Harris said they came out in that first quarter and were aggressive and put us on our heels. We had 0 fast break points in the first quarter, and that's not our game, guys.
All right, Cheryl. Duncan at the line. He is 1 for 1 at the free throw line. And Duncan has had his ups and downs at the foul line during regular season. 63% shooting. You see Jerry Stackhouse checking back in as Sagana Jump sits down after picking up a 4th foul.
I would say Duncan's had more downs than ups from the free throw line, but he has had his moments in his career where he's found a groove. I think shot 80% one season, but for the most part, that's been the one area of the game that has really bothered him. He's a very conscientious guy, cares so much about everything that I think he puts a little too much pressure on himself when he does get to the line.
Nice pass from Stackhouse. Josh Howard. 8 points for Howard, and the Spurs now lead 59-57. Trying to tie this series at 2, Game 5 back in San Antonio on Wednesday night and right here on TNT. Parker got the step, but he drew the foul. He was played by Nowitzki on a switch.
Well, there's that court spread around Tim Duncan, and that's what we talked about in the first half. The first guy to receive the pass from Duncan out of that double team just attacks, and that's the perfect matchup for San Antonio. Parker going right at Nowitzki, drawing the foul.
Greg Popovich telling us before the game, he said, forget about Sports Illustrated, People Magazine, or Newsweek. He is featured in Wine Spectator. Greg is a wine enthusiast. very much involved in the world of wine. Pop can go several hours on how the grapes react to cool and warm air and other matters.
Yeah, well, if his team doesn't win tonight, he may be drowning his sorrows in some of that wine, because this is a huge game for his club.
Holding foul on Barry. So that is number 2 on Barry. Greg Popovich, now one of only 4 coaches in the history of the NBA to have coached teams to 3 league titles.
A guy with a lot of different interests. We walked into his office before the game. He's got CNN, Lou Dobbs on, talking about the immigration issue. Jason Terry knocks down the jumper. Popovich, very interesting man. Attended the Air Force, spent time there, and he's got a lot of different interests, but basketball is his passion.
And as Duncan makes his move, Nowitzki picks up number 3. So Tim Duncan heads back to the line. Greg Popovich, Coach of the Year back in 2003. And you see he is on a list that includes Phil Jackson, Butch Van Brederkamp, John Kunler, who was the head coach of the old Minneapolis Lakers.
And Popovich has built a foundation here in San Antonio that a lot of clubs around the league are trying to emulate. The discipline that he instills in his players, the fact that he's so defensive-minded and yet so liked by his players. I mean, he's a very funny man. Guys love playing for him. They play hard for him. And, of course, his job has been made much easier by the fact that he's had David Robinson and Tim Duncan. And I think what players love about Pop is that he's not afraid to admit that his success is a result of these guys. He's not trying to take any of the credit. He knows how lucky he's been.
San Antonio 63-19 in the regular season. Best record in the West. Best record in the history of the franchise. Opening round, beat Sacramento in 6. Try to tie this series at 2. Terry is open for 3. Jason Terry from downtown, and the game is tied at 62.
Miscommunication defensively. You can't rotate off of Jason Terry. Greg Popovich has made him a priority, and he should not get any open shot after a double team.
Here's Parker. Tony Parker has had a sensational game right from the start. 7 of 11, 22 points. Spurs back up by 2. Now Barry defending on Nowitzki. And nearly picked off by Finley.
Shot clock at 12.
Remember we talked to Popovich a couple of months back, and he said the key guy when you play Dallas is Jason Terry, because he's as clutch a shooter as anybody in the NBA. Remember, he had that huge playoff series against Houston last year. He's done an excellent job spreading the floor. The steal by San Antonio.
Crowd wanted a foul on Duncan on a reach-in. Nowitzki was upset. There's Duncan going at Dampier. Yes, and it counts. For Dampier, that is his 3rd, and Duncan will go to the line.
Well, Dallas has no answer for Tim Duncan, and it starts at this end. The steal, the crowd wanted the call, but you see the clean steal by Parker, and then at this end, Dallas tried to go with Nowitzki on Duncan the first few minutes of the half. That didn't work. They quickly went to Dampier. He's got 3 fouls. Jop has 4. Nowitzki with 3. So Tim Duncan just going to work down low against this Mavericks defense.
And Avery Johnson telling us earlier, even though the Mavs are up 2 games to 1, Avery said, we have no answer for Tim Duncan.
Yeah, well, they do have 18 fouls to use between Dampier, Jop, and Nowitzki. They just may use all of them tonight.
Duncan switching off to Terry. As Harris starts to make his move, Nick Pavetta with the call foul against the Spurs. Walking foul called on Cohen. Let's send it over to Cheryl.
Well, Marvin, Steve, in San Antonio's first-round series against Sacramento, Tim Duncan really did struggle. Tony Parker says in game 1 of this series, he's been great, very aggressive. He says, I've seen him starting to shoot those bank shots, and I haven't seen that for a while. It's great to see the old Timmy Duncan to this level.
All right, Cheryl. Jerry Stackhouse knocks down a 3. He has 14, and it brings the Mavericks within 2. Parker goes to the pull-up. He is met by Dampier. Tony Parker on fire. 8 of 12, 24 points. A bounce-back performance coming off Game 3. Stackhouse wide open. Another 3 for Joe Stackhouse.
Well, that's the problem, Marv, when you're constantly switching everything on the perimeter. Occasionally you get lost, which is exactly what happened right there. That's why Stackhouse was left wide open.
Mavericks take the lead. That was blocked from behind. Harris cut off by Ginobili. And a foul is called on Parker. That's his first. Tony Parker got caught on Dirk Nowitzki, and he's discussing the call with Dick Bavetta.
Now, this has just been matchup nightmare for Greg Popovich. He's tried so many different combinations, and he's come out in the second half with Brent Berry guarding Devin Harris and Parker over on Terry, but every screen and roll becomes a switch. Spurs normally like to do that late in the shot clock, not so much early, but that's what they've had to resort to playing this small lineup.
Correction on the score. It's the Spurs 69 and the Mavericks 68. Shot clock rolling down. Terry off the mark. Duncan not able to handle that pass that was thrown astray. Stackhouse, this time met by Bowen. There's Stackhouse to the rim. Terry took a shot in the forehead. Parker, that's an offensive foul. Wild end-to-end action. Parker called for the charge. And a timeout taken, just under 6 remaining in the third. San Antonio with a 1-point lead. And for tonight's In the City, presented by Dodge, the bold all-new Caliber is cruising through the streets of Dallas. Sponsored yet fascinating material. You are brought to us by Sharp Aquos LCD TV. It's a double plug. Shot clock down to 5. Nowitzki angling, and he draws the foul. That's 3 on Bowen.
Bowen furious with the call. He's looking at Derek Stafford saying, that was your call and you didn't call it. Dick Bavetta made the decision from the other side of the floor, and now Bowen will have a discussion. But take a look. Dirk Nowitzki's so good going left on that pull-up because he's able to square up. Bowen makes him go back to the right, forces the miss, but made some contact.
Nowitzki 7 of 7 at the line, a 90% free throw shooter during the regular season among the leaders, as he has been in recent years. 20 points for Nowitzki. Here's Michael Finley back, coming on for Bruce Bowen.
So rare, Marv, to see a San Antonio defense that is forced to scramble time and again. You know, they've built this defense on the concept of forcing everything sideline into their 2 7-footers, starting with David Robinson and more recent years, Rasho Nesterovic, Nazi Muhammad, but going small. And we talked about this in the first half. It's forcing them to scramble, to switch, and to rotate, and it's just not the same team we're used to seeing.
Dallas up by 1. Duncan. Mavericks have had the lead for brief time here in this third quarter. Harris played well by Ginobili. Pass deflected. Parker is on it. He has Barry. Parker goes all the way. Will he get the... Well, it did not drop. Question was, would it have counted? But it doesn't matter. But he'll head to the line. Foul on Jason Terry.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because he's shooting anyway. But Dick Bavetta was ready to count that basket for sure. The ball just rattles out at the last second. How about Devin Harris a few moments ago took the charge from Tony Parker. Very few players in the NBA can actually take a charge from Parker. He's so quick, Harris is. And that time, Parker ends up with Jason Terry in front of him, gets right around him, draws the foul.
Parker hitting 1 of 2, and the game is tied at 70. Game 4 of this Western Conference semifinal series Dallas with a 2-1 lead. San Antonio trying to tie it. Game 5 in the Alamo City coming up on Wednesday night here on TNT. Stackhouse. Strong game for Stackhouse. 19 points for Jerry Stackhouse.
It's a tough matchup for Brent Berry. Stackhouse just bigger and stronger and very long and athletic, and he's been able to get that shot off against Berry throughout this series.
Duncan, yes, went right at Dampier, and the game is tied at 72.
Boy, he has been phenomenal throughout this series, creating contact with Dampier and still able to finish the play.
Terry lost his balance. And Ginobili fouled by Howard.
Very smart play by Ginobili. He knows his team is in the penalty, so he veers in front of Howard, creates a little bit of contact, maybe flops. He's been known to do that occasionally, as you know, Marv. But take a look, the replay. Terry slips, and Ginobili right here, he sees Howard, steps in front, a little contact with the leg, and that's 2 free throws.
Howard, it is number 4. Otto Ginobili at times this season has looked worn down, did sit out for a while with a sprained right ankle, which affected his explosiveness. Had the big game Saturday night, game 3 here in Dallas. Evan Harris will check back in, and Josh Howard sits down after collecting number 4. San Antonio back up by 2. Dallas here at home won 34 of 41 during the regular season. Tied with the Spurs' second best home record in the league. Here's Terry. Yes. The game is tied at 74. Meanwhile, San Antonio on the road at 29-12. That's the best road record in the NBA.
Now, this is the biggest one of the year tonight. And let's see if Dallas can defend Duncan. Parker with the penetration.
Tipped by Duncan. Crowd looking for the foul on Duncan as the ball was deflected out of bounds by the Mavericks.
See, and if I'm San Antonio, I'm still going to Duncan on the post because Josh Howard's now on the bench. He's their best double teamer. Dallas with a lineup out there that I don't believe can give enough help to Tim Duncan.
Timeout is called. Game teams and was a teammate of Michael Jordan. One of your greatest moments. Game 6, 2003 West Final Series right here in Dallas. As Ginobili knocks it down, he scored 12 points, going 4 for 4 from 3-point range, and led a fourth quarter rally that saw the Spurs outscore the Mavs 34-9. Spurs went on to defeat the Nets 4-2 in the NBA Final. And now that we've been allowed to use the tape that you carry around with us, we'll return it to you.
Thank you.
That's well edited also.
I've got the video recorder set up in my room so I can replay it later.
Very inspirational.
Well, meanwhile, Tim Duncan will take a seat, and we'll see how long Greg Popovich can afford to keep him on the bench. Remember, he put him there in the first half for less than a minute. Dallas made a little mini run, so he can't afford to keep him over there for too long.
Nowitzki now being played by Barry. Dirk Nowitzki, 7 of 8 from the field, 9 for 9 from the line for 23 points.
How about the offensive efficiency of both teams, Marv? The Spurs shooting 56%, Dallas at almost 53%.
Ginobili to the step back. Nowitzki with the rebound. Game tied at 76. We approach 2 minutes remaining in the third. Terry going at Finley. Harris. Shot clock to 7. Nowitzki. Oh, the steal by Ginobili. And he'll take the distance.
Wow, the long arms and the quick feet of Manu Ginobili coming out of nowhere to make that steal.
Spurs up by 2. Stackhouse with the lob. Knocked away from Dampier. And it's a jump ball.
Oh, that's a case of not knowing your personnel. Dampier not used to going up for a lob like that. But defensively, how about this play? Ginobili so quick, and Dirk Nowitzki, as good of a ball handler as he is, Marv, he is 7 feet tall, so that ball bounces up pretty high when he dribbles it. And the perfect anticipation from Manu Ginobili.
Horry and Stackhouse, controlled by Dallas. Stackhouse passed on a three, and then he's tripped up. He's been very successful from that left-hand corner, but went to the drive, and the foul called on Ginobili.
I know we've talked about this a couple of times already, Marv, but these small lineups leave San Antonio in positions they're unaccustomed to. Normally, that's a big man sliding over to help right on the block, and he'll stand tall and pops guys, Rasho, Nesterovic, and Nazi Muhammad, who haven't played really at all. I guess Rasho got in for 1 minute, but normally those are the guys who are coming over to cut off penetration. But now you see 3 Spur defenders, Ginobili, Finley, Parker, all flying over to the ball. So they're just unaccustomed to being in this position, but it's what they have to do given the matchups in this series.
And missed by Stackhouse, the first free throw missed by the Mavericks here tonight. So they're 14 of 15 at the line. Spurs 21 of 24. San Antonio up by a point. Parker, beautifully done. He went at Harris and then changed up and was able to finish with the scoop shot.
Well, I don't know if San Antonio could play any better offensively. Mark Parker with 27, Duncan 22, Ginobili 18. But the question is, can they stop Dallas? That's going to make the difference in the fourth quarter.
Stackhouse, it counts, and a foul. The foul away from the ball. Nowitzki and Ginobili separated as they had words.
Now this is what happens when you're a little guy and you have to constantly battle bigger players on the boards. You get a little frustrated. Take a look at the bottom right hand of your screen. The attempted box out, the elbow from Ginobili, and that's what led to the technical. And then a little altercation. Marquise Daniels steps in.
Foul on Ginobili, apparently no technicals, just a personal foul. And that puts Nowitzki at the line. Well, Greg Popovich telling us earlier, offensively, we're fine. Defensively, we're having problems with this team. He said they've broken our defense down more than anyone ever has.
Well, even against Phoenix last year in the conference finals, Popovich could find somebody for his big guy to cover. I think last year they put Duncan on Quentin Richardson, knowing that he was more of a spot-up shooter. But with this quick Dallas lineup, there's nobody for Nesterovic or Muhammad to guard without being exposed.
And a foul against the Spurs. Parker at that time was able to penetrate, but was met by Nowitzki, who changed his shot, and the foul is called on Horry. Both teams in the penalty with 38 seconds to go in this third quarter.
And no coincidence, Marv. Duncan goes to the bench a couple of minutes ago. Popovich trying to buy maybe 2 or 3 minutes to close the quarter. And Dallas really having a mini run here, getting to the free throw line.
Evan Harris, originally a 5th round pick of the Wizards, his draft rights traded to Dallas in a deal involving Jerry Stackhouse and Antoine Jameson, and he has made a significant leap in his play. Remember, he missed 24 games at the end of this season with that strained quad and has come back strong since he's been placed on the floor in the starting lineup. Harris with the save and called for time. Able to save that possession. Spurs thought he'd stepped out, but a timeout granted to Harris, so Dallas will have it with 36 seconds to go. 22 points here tonight have come in this third quarter. Mavericks have a full 24. Game tied at 80. Harris lost it. Recovered by Van Horn. Kevin Harris will say, give me an assist.
Yeah.
Mavericks lead by 2. And San Antonio works the clock. There is a 5-second differential between the shot clock and game clock. Ori sets the pick. Brown wanted to travel. He traveled twice. Silvetta makes the call on that second traveling violation.
He traveled twice in the same possession. He has now traveled 4 times, I believe, maybe even 5 in this game.
8.2 on the game clock. 8 seconds.
8 seconds left in the third. Terry angles right, gets the step, and scores. There's 1 second to go in the quarter. Beautiful move by Terry. Finley. It's waved off.
You to dictate the action as you get going in the final 12 minutes.
Nick Van Exel back on the floor. San Antonio remains small. The lone big man is Duncan. Finley rebounded by Stackhouse. Harris and Terry in the backcourt. Dampier, Daniels. Beautiful move by Harris. It counts. And the foul.
Now the Spurs have done a terrific job on Harris most of the night, but he's too quick for Nick Van Exel, and you see the screen from Dampier and Harris. That's all he needs, a sliver of daylight. So quick and long-armed. Really finishes well at the rim.
That was number 4 on Van Exel, and the Mavericks now lead it by 7. 10 unanswered by Dallas, going back to that final minute of the third. Barry straight down the lane and went to the left hand. 87-82. You can see the quick transition by the Mavericks, wasting no time to get to that front court. Marquise Daniels, Gary Stackhouse, played here by Bruce Bowen. Stackhouse to the fadeaway. Barry on the rebound. Bowen for 3.
Well, you can hear the entire crowd screaming. They know how effective Bruce Bowen is from that spot in the corner.
Daniels is wide open. Took it to the rim. And the foul. So he passed on the perimeter shot and drove the lane. That's number 5 on Van Exel.
And these are points number 41 and 42 in the paint for Dallas tonight. You see the late reach in from Van Exel. But that's the result of this small Spurs lineup unable to cover the rim. And Duncan, being the only 7-footer out there, Marvin, he can't afford to waste fouls on these Dallas drivers. They know it. They're attacking every possession.
3-point play for the 3-year man out of Auburn, Marquise Daniels. 90-82, Dallas. Minute and a half gone by in the fourth. Tony Parker is back, replacing Nick Van Exel. Ginobili for 3. Manu Ginobili from downtown to bring San Antonio within 5.
This is just an incredible display of offense from both teams. Ginobili now with 21.
Dampier try to set the pick for Stackhouse. Daniels again attacking. Finley with the rebound. Look out, Terry fell down, and Parker had nowhere to go. He's met by Dampier. Makes the recovery. Saved by Duncan. Ginobili from the other side for 3. Manu Ginobili. Back-to-back threes. One from the left wing and one from the right wing to bring the Spurs within 2.
What a turn of events. Tony Parker had the wide open layup, turned it down, and the Spurs end up getting an extra point as a result.
Stackhouse changed his mind. Dirk Nowitzki getting set to make his return. Good job by Bowen to stop Stackhouse. Stackhouse thought he was fouled. Parker puts the move on Daniels. Here's Parker. We're tied at 90.
Well, I guess the moral of the story is don't put your superstar on the bench. I mean, as soon as Nowitzki goes out, the Spurs make a huge run. Amazing.
8 unanswered for San Antonio. Timeout is called by Avery Johnson. And here is the three-point festival by Manu Ginobili.
He has been amazing tonight. 4 steals. He's been active and energetic, but it's his offense that has gotten the Spurs back. Basketball game, the level of play of both the teams and the individuals, just amazing here.
Game 5 in San Antonio Wednesday night, and right here on TNT. 3 minutes in, 4th quarter. Here's Harris, got the step. It counts, and the foul. Evan Harris has hit 5 of 5. He has 11 points. Foul called on Bowen. That is number 4 on Bruce Bowen.
Well, if you blink, you think you're watching Tony Parker. I mean, he looks so similar. The crossover move that Parker has patented, that right to left quick move, and then the ability to get to the rim and finish with the offhand. Harris, another good game here tonight.
Slow start, but he has come on. Dallas up by 2. That ends the 8-0 run for San Antonio, sparked by Manu Ginobili. Hit a couple of threes. Duncan in heavy traffic, and the game is tied at 92.
You can see the Mavericks still reluctant to send that total double team. They're kind of helping a little bit, but not fully committing a double to Duncan. He knows that. That's why he's attacking the rim with ease right now.
Finley back on Nowitzki. Here's Nowitzki. That's a rare miss. And the ball deflected out by San Antonio. And Dirk claiming that he took a shot to the side of the head. Howard puts it in play. Harris now guarded by Ginobili. Parker on Terry. Game is tied at 92. Terry rebounded by Parker. The winner of this series advances to the Western Conference Final, facing the winner between the Suns and the Clippers. Ginobili. Duncan on the follow.
The long arm of the law. He just reaches over Josh Howard, steals that rebound away, putting the Spurs up 2.
26 for Duncan. Finley giving away 5-6 inches on Nowitzki. He's missed his last 2. He had hit 7 straight shots.
And with Bowen with 4 fouls, Finley's getting a few minutes here on Nowitzki, doing a pretty nice job.
Finley with a driving hook. And Finley tried to save it. The ball back to the Mavericks. Sagana Diop will come on for Eric Dampier. Dampier sits down with 6 points, 6 rebounds. Diop playing with 4 personal fouls. So 2 big men on the floor now for Dallas. Diop set the pick. Terry, yes. Once again, the game is tied.
I like what Avery Johnson did there. Switch up the screen and roll, take Nowitzki out of the play, force San Antonio to react. And they've had so many different looks from Dallas tonight, it's tough to recover.
That's a deep teardrop from Tony Parker. 31 for Parker. San Antonio with a 96-94 lead.
How about the big 3 for San Antonio? 26 for Duncan, 31 for Parker, and Ginobili with 24.
Harris trying to force the issue, but is able to draw the foul on Ginobili. He had nowhere to go, driving left, trying to shoot right, and Ginobili collects number 5. That announcement trumps the response. Brent Barry will come on for Manu Ginobili, who's hit 4-4 from beyond that 3-point line, and sits down with 24 points on 8 of 10 shooting, along with 4 steals. National television coverage of the NBA Conference semifinals will continue this week. Thursday on ESPN, Game 6 of the Heat and Nets, if necessary, followed by Game 6 between the Suns and the Clippers, and that will be necessary. That series tied up at 2. That game will be played. Sunday on ABC, it'll be either Game 7 of an Eastern Conference semifinal series or Game 1 of the Eastern Finals. Tied at 96, 6.5 remaining in the fourth. And a foul is called on Harris, guiding Parker to the outside.
Yeah, it's the same call that Harris just got from Ginobili. So the officials being very consistent here tonight.
Non-shooting foul, only the first team foul called on Dallas. Harry, Parker, Finley, Bowen, and Duncan on the floor now for the Spurs. Here's Parker. Set it up for Duncan, and Duncan may have grabbed the rim. Let's see. No. The ball was deflected out of bounds. Last touch by Dallas.
I think it hit the shot clock, and I guess Jimmy Clark is saying that a Mavericks defender got his hand on the ball. We'll take a look. The nice feed from Parker, and as Duncan goes up, he loses it. Tough to see if Jop got his hand on it or not.
Crowd wanted a foul on Parker, who fires one up. And it's a 24-second violation. That did not make contact. Duncan did grab the rim on that last play, but just to brace to avoid falling, which is permitted. And now the officials are checking with each other as to whether that hit the rim.
Well, let's take a look. Parker pulls up for the three, knowing the shot clock is winding down, and it didn't look like it hit the rim there.
And Jim Clark is telling Avery Johnson that does not agree with the call. Clark saying that it grazed the rim.
Well, it didn't look like it from that angle either, so I think San Antonio gets a break here.
And they get the new 24. And you can hear the reaction from the home crowd. And now an offensive foul on San Antonio, so Dallas will get it back. Foul on Duncan, that's his second.
That was a similar play to what the Spurs ran at the end of Game 3 when Harris reached in to poke the ball away, and I think Duncan knows that, tries to make the pass a little quick, and sets that moving screen.
6 minutes remaining in the fourth. Game tied at 96. Terry did not have the good angle, and the officials checking with each other. Dick Pavetta, the outside official, and looking over at Jim Clark. Pavetta said he did not get a good look. And the ball will remain in the possession of Dallas. Last touch by San Antonio. Wild finish in what has been a terrific game in this Game 4 of the Western Conference semifinal series.
We're spending so much time dealing with Nowitzki that I think that the Spurs weren't quite sure what to do on that rotation there.
It is Dallas ball as we resume. The game is tied at 96, just under 6 remaining in the fourth quarter. Harris, Bowen with the rebound. Spurs have led by as many as 9. Mavericks have led by as many as 8. This game has been tied 18 times. We've had 6 lead changes. Finley for 3. Yes! Michael Finley against his former team. Hits from downtown. San Antonio up 99-96. Nowitzki on a quick release. Rebounded by Duncan.
Well, there's the dilemma for Dallas. They finally bring the double team onto Duncan, and that's what you give up. The open look, and the ex-Maverick trying to be a Maverick killer here tonight.
Offensive foul. It is on Tim Duncan. That is his third.
Let's take a look. Duncan coming down and just throws Jop out of the way a little bit, but this is the playoffs. Marv, 5 minutes to go, a close game. That's a tough call if you're a San Antonio fan.
Eric Dampier is back, coming on for Sagana Jop. Terry. Jason Terry has been outstanding. That's 22 for Terry. San Antonio's lead is 1. Tony Parker with 31 points. He's equal to playoff career high. Tim Duncan And you can see the contact was made on a double team as Harris ran into Duncan and picks up his 4th foul.
Well, Duncan gets the ball on the post, and with the cutter going baseline, you see Harris just runs right into Duncan, and that hurts.
But Dallas only their 2nd team foul. San Antonio has 4. Howard up on Finley. Shot clock to 3. Parker, yes.
Boy, has he been good tonight. That's a career playoff high. 33 points now for Tony Parker. 12 of 20 shooting.
Spurs by 3. Terry. Duncan with the rebound. Here's the outlet for Finley. Nowitzki back. Finley goes right at him. Finley stops. Michael Finley taking all the way, going at Dirk Nowitzki, and put it down.
Oh, God. That was the Michael Finley of old.
San Antonio 103. Dallas 98. Just under 4. Remaining on the floor. Nowitzki. Duncan is caught on the foul.
And Duncan can't believe it. He felt like he was outside that arc. But Jimmy Clark points down. I'm not sure what he was pointing at, because it looked to me like Duncan was well outside that arc. Well, the Spurs are going to come up with a technical, too. The question is not if his feet were outside the line. It's whether he had position or not. I don't know if he had position, but he was 2 feet outside the line, and Jimmy Clark points at it. So if you're going to point at the line, that to me indicates that you feel like the feet were inside.
A delay of game called on the Spurs, their 2nd violation. And Nowitzki able to convert on the technical. You see the foul rundown as Duncan picked up number 4. 5 apiece on Ginobili and Van Exel. 4 on Duncan, 4 on Bowen, 4 apiece on Harris, Howard, and Jop. And now Nowitzki will shoot the 2 for the personal foul. He's 10 of 11 at the line. As we mentioned earlier, a 90% free throw shooter during the regular season.
Oh, what a turn of events here, Marv. I mean, if that's called a charge, then there's no technical for the delay of game. The Spurs end up getting the ball back with a 5-point lead. Instead, Nowitzki makes this free throw. It's a 2-point game, and Dallas is right back in it.
Jerry Stackhouse is checked back in. .26 points for Nowitzki, and Dallas within 2. A game of desperation for the Spurs, who do not want to head back to San Antonio trailing 3-1. Duncan. Ginobili is on it. Here's Ginobili, and he's fouled. The quickness of Manu Ginobili getting to that loose ball. He went right at Eric Dampier, who picks up number 4, and Ginobili will shoot 2.
Well, the Spurs have played like a desperate team here tonight, Mark. Remember, they were out-rebounded by an average of 5 per game in the first 3 ball games in this series. Tonight, 33-25. They are quicker to the basketball, playing with an edge here tonight.
Manu Ginobili, a 78% free throw shooter, 5 of 5 at the line. Both teams have shot well at the foul line. Spurs lead 105-101 as we come up on 3 minutes to play in the 4th. Marv Albert with Steve Kerr and Cheryl Miller. We're in Dallas. Harris puts the move on Finley. Duncan with the rebound. Good box out on Dampier.
And terrific defense by Michael Finley, keeping his body in front of Harris and forcing the difficult shot.
Rick Popovich wants a timeout. So the Spurs with a 105-101 lead on the Mavericks. A couple of big buckets by the one-time Maverick. Michael Finley hit a 3 and then went right at Dirk Nowitzki.
here during this latest San Antonio run.
A crowd of 20,969. It's the largest crowd in American Airlines Center history. This arena in its 5th year of existence on 2500 Victory Avenue, Steve, as you know.
Yeah, I do know. You pointed that out at halftime.
Just under 3 to go in the 4th. Parker, rebounded by Nowitzki. Dallas in possession, down by 4. And Harris sets it up. And here with the pick. Terry had it knocked away, and he's fouled by Ginobili, and that's number 6.
That's a terrific play by Jason Terry, Mark, because he knew he had Ginobili coming from behind, and he kind of veered off in front of Ginobili and drew the foul. And that's a big blow for San Antonio at both ends of the floor. Now here's the play. You see the penetration, and Ginobili tries to close out knowing that Terry can shoot the ball. You see him glance back twice, finds Ginobili in his rearview mirror, and then just leans in front of him.
Manu Ginobili with another strong game. Jason Terry, an 80% free throw shooter. Ginobili 26 points, 28 minutes, 8 of 11 from the field, 4 of 4 from the three-point line. But he is fouled out, and Terry takes advantage. The San Antonio lead is down to 2. Just under 2.5 remaining in the 4th quarter. It is on the line here for the defending NBA champions. Try to tie the series at 2. Duncan feeling for Dampier. Shot clock down to 3. Down to 2. Here's Parker to the fade. And the save by Dampier. Under 2 minutes left in the 4th. Terry passed on a 3. Stackhouse now played by Bowen. Nowitzki guarded by Parker. Stackhouse, 3 on the clock. Scores! The game is tied at 105.
Oh, a tough shot from Stackhouse. Just an amazing level of basketball we're seeing here tonight.
Minute and a half to play in the 4th. Shot clock to 5. Duncan, yes. San Antonio up by 2.
Nice ball movement from San Antonio. The action, the dribble weave, that doesn't allow Dallas to find any defensive help for Eric Dampier.
Stackhouse digging. Goes to the pull-up. And it's handled by Finley. 1 minute to play in the 4th. San Antonio with the ball and a 2-point lead. Parker played well by Harris. Duncan goes right at Dampier, spinning and draws the foul.
Now this is the MVP, Tim Duncan. This is not the same guy we saw in the regular season, or the one who was bothered by that foot injury. He is quick, active, drawing fouls from every Maverick defender, and the spin move there, the quick spin move, we have not seen that move in the regular season from Duncan. He has come up huge here in the playoffs.
Dampier with his 5th foul. Duncan is 6 of 6 at the line and getting the treatment from the crowd. .48 seconds remaining in the 4th. Dallas with 2 timeouts left. San Antonio 2 full and a 20. Duncan hits 1 of 2. The Spurs lead by 3. Terry to the rim and is fouled. The foul committed by Finley. Got him with a hack.
Foul, Spurs number 4, Michael Finley's 2nd personal.
Jason Terry back to the line. He is 4 of 4. Both teams 24 of 28 at the foul line.
And that's a victory for San Antonio after the way they've been dominated at the free throw line in the first 3 games of this series. And Terry squeaks in the first one.
Spurs lead by 2. And now Josh Howard will check in for Jerry Stackhouse. Avery Johnson going defensive, offensive shuffle here.
And Howard is the best double teamer on the Dallas roster, so he's the guy most likely to come down on Duncan if Dallas does decide to come after him.
It's a 1-point game. What a doubleheader here on TNT tonight. Earlier, 2-point victory for the Cavaliers over the Pistons. This one is going down to the final seconds. San Antonio up by 1. Tony Parker, 33 points. That's a playoff career high. Tim Duncan with 29. Manu Ginobili, who fouled out a moment ago, with 26. Dallas with Dirk Nowitzki having another big night. 26 points. Jason Terry with 26. Jerry Stackhouse off the bench for 24. 39.7 remaining on the fourth. And the Spurs turn it over on the inbound.
Unbelievable. They turned it over late in game 3. Now another one. And the Mavericks with a chance to take the lead.
Nowitzki, played by Parker. Battle for the rebound, kept alive. Here's Terry. Yes! With 23 seconds to play, Dallas has taken a 1-point lead. And Greg Popovich says call for time. Trying to signal for a timeout. At first, the players did not see it. And now it's acknowledged. 23 seconds left. And Dallas again has come from behind off the turnover by the Spurs.
And a huge scramble for the ball. Devin Harris somehow ends up with the basketball in his hands. He finds Terry, and the Dallas bench loves it. Back to their big guy. On the other hand, Tony Parker is the guy who can penetrate, create a foul, create a play, and with Manu Ginobili on the bench, I think Parker is the likely guy to have the ball in his hands. And if you're Dallas, remember Parker and Duncan, both very poor free throw shooters. So you could potentially foul if you're in a compromised situation defensively.
Spurs do have a 20-second timeout remaining. Mavericks have 2 full timeouts. Michael Finley will throw it in. Eric Dampier defending on Tim Duncan. Finley gets it into Barry. Here's Duncan. Finley for 3. Yes! Michael Finley from downtown comes up with another clutch shot. San Antonio up by 2, but lots of time remaining. 15.4 to go. Dallas taking a timeout. They will be in possession when we come back.
In Mav, taking the pass from Duncan. Dallas can't recover quickly enough. San Antonio trying to hang on with a 2-point lead.
Fourth quarter, signed as a free agent following 8.5 years with Dallas. He was available by virtue of the NBA's new amnesty clause, which saved the Mavs $51 million in luxury tax.
And Dallas with 1 timeout left here, Marv. And again, they don't want to run the clock too far down, because if they miss, they need to create another opportunity for themselves.
San Antonio in the penalty. Nowitzki's missed his last 4 shots. Played by Bowen as he makes his move. We get the call on Bowen. It's number 5 on Bowen. So Nowitzki to the line, where he has hit 12 of 13.
Once again, Nowitzki finding himself in a critical situation at the free throw line. Spurs have their best defender on him. He slides his feet, and he gets his arm in. I think that's where Dick Pivetta saw the call. Not a lot of contact down low, but Bowen gets his arm in, and now Nowitzki, just like in game 3, has a chance to at least tie the game here for Dallas.
Dallas within a point. Eric Dampier Coming on Avery Johnson looking for some height should Nowitzki miss the free throw.
And the Spurs with a 20-second timeout left. So Nesterovic comes in for a rebound, and they will automatically call the time.
Nowitzki hits the free throw. The game is tied. It'll be San Antonio ball with 8 and 5/10 seconds remaining in this fourth quarter. So San Antonio has just used its final timeout. What are they talking about in the huddle?
Well, they're talking about don't turn the ball over. Remember, they turned it over at the end of game 3. We saw another critical one here. So they've got to get the ball in bounds, first of all. And why not go back to Duncan? He's created offense for himself and for others. And if you're Dallas, you got one timeout left. So if you can make a stop, call a quick timeout, you may be able to set something up and advance the ball to half court.
Mavericks are in the penalty. And let's see how the Spurs play it. They have Duncan, Parker, Bowen, Barry, and Finley. And once again, they'll use Finley to inbound.
And with 8.5 left, you got to think about going to Parker for the penetration. You may not have enough time to get the ball into Duncan. We'll see if Parker, the Spurs have run a play in the past where Parker will go to the corner and then feed Duncan. Looks like they're trying to run it now.
Duncan, guarded by Dampier. Duncan is isolated. Final seconds. Here's Duncan for the win. We're headed to overtime. The big men, either Nazir Muhammad or Russia Nesterovic, as they did throughout the regular season. Rick Popovich feeling that was the way they could match up with the speed of the Mavericks. So Dallas controls the opening tip of this 5-minute overtime session. Nowitzki has missed his last 4 shots, goes at Duncan, and then kicked it out. It opens it up for Terry for 3. Way off. Harris able to field it. Dampier with an offensive board. And they have a new shot clock. Last time Nowitzki scored was late in the third quarter. Last time he hit a field goal. Here's Terry with the step. And scores. And a magnificent performance by Jason Terry. He now has 30 points.
And once again, the switching defense of the Spurs allows Jason Terry to be matched up with Duncan way out on the perimeter. He knows there's no shot blocker under there.
Here's Parker, went to the reverse, sweeping by Nowitzki. Harris on the run all the way. And Dallas has taken a 115-111 lead. San Antonio calls the tie.
Now the speed and quickness of this Dallas team has been a problem for San Antonio all night. You see Terry going right around Duncan, and then following the Parker miss, Harris going coast to coast. Mavericks by 4. Has enough left in the tank. Well, remember, this is a tempo that Dallas prefers. Spurs used to playing games in the 90s. They're without Manu Ginobili, who fouled out. They've been riding Duncan and Tony Parker. Parker has not done much lately, and you see the amazing scoring effort from the stars on both teams. Jason Terry coming up huge. This is by far his best game in the postseason. But the Spurs need a score here. Gotta go back into Duncan.
Mentioned Parker's strong start. Hit 6 of his first 7 shots. Since then, only 6 of 16 from the field. Eric Dampier involved with Tim Duncan, and it's on Dampier. See Dick Pavetta give him that stare because Dampier was about to say something. He has fouled out. So he departs with 6 points, 8 rebounds, and Sagana Diop will check back in.
And he's got 4 fouls, so Avery Johnson told us before the game, I got 12 of them. I'm going to use them, and he just might use all of them. And if that happens, then you've got Nowitzki having to slide down to Duncan.
Duncan working on Jopp. Duncan rejected by Jopp. Harris puts the speed on and lost it. Lost the dribble. Finley with Barry on the wing. Finley for three. Dallas on the run again. Harris had it knocked away. A second consecutive turnover.
There's so much emphasis on pushing the ball for Devin Harris that twice in a row he loses the ball, commits a turnover.
Duncan, oh, what a move. He went to the left hand to bank it home. And San Antonio is down by 2, just under 3 minutes to play in this OT.
What an amazing basketball game.
31 points for Duncan. Terry. And a push-out. Loose ball foul on Jopp. The ball back to San Antonio. That's number 5 on Jopp.
Avery Johnson has talked about the importance of pushing the ball against this Spurs team. They have to get easy scores, but Harris has to be aware of who's behind him. The other end, just too much Tim Duncan going to the left hand.
Just under 2.5 remaining in overtime. The steal by Terry, took it away from Barry. Here's Terry. He missed the stuff. Stackhouse is right there. Mavericks lead 117-113 as we approach 2 minutes to play in overtime. Bowen for three. Yes. And Bowen cuts the lead down to 1.
This is ridiculous.
Just under 2 minutes to go in overtime. Dallas looking to go up 3-1 in the series. San Antonio trying to tie it at 2. Terry went to the fadeaway. 32 points for Terry. 119-116. The Mavericks with the lead. A minute and 35 left in overtime. Duncan backing Jopp. Rebounded by Nowitzki. And Terry moves across deliberately. Now they're looking to use the clock. Down to 10 on the 24. Harris cutting in and scores. He went right at Duncan. The Mavericks lead 121-116. Finley off the fake is fouled by Jopp. So that's number 6. And both centers have fouled out for Dallas.
How about the play by Devin Harris at the other end, Marv? The switch on the screen and roll. Parker ends up on Nowitzki. Barry comes to double. And this is what Harris has been doing the entire series, attacking the Spurs big people, specifically Tim Duncan. And now with Jopp out, Dallas has to go small. Josh Howard comes back in. If Finley can knock down 2 free throws, make it a 1-possession game, Marv, Spurs need a stop, and then they've got a major advantage with Duncan going against Nowitzki.
Michael Finley, 85% at the line during the regular season. Mavericks lead by 4 with a minute and 1 remaining in overtime. Jason Terry with a playoff career high. Check that, 32 points, just shy of a playoff career high. 3-point lead for Dallas. And again, Mavericks in no hurry. See Terry checking with Avery Johnson over at the bench. Shot clock now to 7. Terry then on a switch by Duncan. Down to 3. Terry launches a rainbow and scores! Jason Terry extends to a 5-point lead. Timeout, San Antonio.
Oh, you can't play any better defense than Tim Duncan did right here. Stays down, stays with the quicker Terry, plays him, challenges the shot, and as you called it, Norm, the rainbow. Look how high this ball goes, way up in the air, and the Mavericks threatening to take a commanding 3-1 series lead.
But it's the Western semis, and it's 123-118 in overtime as we send it back to Marv and Steve. Guys.
All right, thanks, Ernie. As you see, just 38 seconds remaining in the overtime. San Antonio in possession. What are they talking about?
Clearly a 2-for-1 possession here, because if you can get the bucket, either a 2 or a 3, before that 24-second clock comes up, then you've got the opportunity to play defense at the other end without fouling. So a quick move here. I think you've got to go to Parker and try to get the penetration. No shot blocking at the rim, remember, with Diop and Eric Dampier fouled out. So Parker should be able to attack and find his way to the paint.
And the next foul would put Dallas in the penalty. Parker gets the pick from Duncan, goes at Nowitzki, and he draws the foul. And Parker disappointed that he was not able to score for a potential three-point play. That's number 4 on Nowitzki.
Yeah, that changes everything if Parker's able to knock that down and then convert the free throw. As it is, you've got a very poor free throw shooter having to go to the line. He's missed 3 tonight, so 2 critical ones. He has to make both of them.
Tony Parker only 71% at the line during the season. And now 9 of 13 here tonight. Rebounded by Stackhouse. And Stackhouse gets to the front court. And just was looking to hold on to the ball, and he is fouled. With 25 seconds remaining in OT, fouls called on Barry.
Well, unlike the other night, Stackhouse will now take the ball out of bounds. So if you're Dallas, you want to get the ball to either Nowitzki or Terry here, your best free throw shooters.
Next foul puts San Antonio over the limit. Nowitzki. San Antonio has to foul. They did not want to foul Nowitzki, but they have to foul.
Well, Bowen's reluctant to do so because he's got 5 fouls, but you got to foul.
Stackhouse. Foul thought is a 24-second violation. Here's Finley firing, and that will do it. The Dallas Mavericks have defeated the San Antonio Spurs 123-118 in overtime, and they have taken a 3-1 lead